You're listening to the 20% Podcast, powered by the 20% Collective, a community of trailblazing women financial advisors redefining what it means to build a firm on your terms. No fluff, no ego. Just bold conversations, fresh perspectives, and real-world strategies to help you lead, grow, and own your success. This is the 20% Podcast.
Welcome to the 20% Podcast. I'm Cathy Curtis, founder of Curtis Financial Planning and co-founder of the 20% Collective. And today I'm so excited to share my conversation with Kristin Andree, founder of My FA Coach. Kristin is a high-performance coach, author, speaker, and longtime industry insider known for her direct, honest approach and her ability to challenge advisors to think bigger. She spent years as a managing director at a Fortune 100 financial firm before stepping away in 2009 to build something different, a business that blends her deep industry credibility with a real passion for helping advisors grow practices that actually fit their lives. As a former financial advisor and certified financial planner, Kristin brings both strategic rigor and lived experience to everything she does. In this episode of the 20% Podcast, Kristin and I dig into what it really means to know your value, find the right clients, and love the practice you're growing. We talk about her Know, Find, Love framework, why so many advisors hit a growth plateau, and what has to change to scale without burning out. Kristin shares practical insight on letting go of control, building the right team, thinking like a CEO, and choosing marketing strategies that align with who you are instead of chasing every shiny object. We also get into AI, succession planning, fear of success, and why women in this industry have a real competitive advantage when they stop trying to blend in. If you're a woman advisor who knows she's capable of more but feels stuck, stretched thin, or a little bored with a practice that no longer feels intentional, this conversation will resonate deeply. Kristin will inspire you to bet on yourself, design a business around the life you want, and get back to enjoying the work you do. Let's dive in. Here's my conversation with Kristin Andree. Hi, Kristin. Welcome to the 20% Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Why don't you describe the woman that you most love to coach and why?
I would say that the most fun for me are the ones that are they're very growth minded and they know they have so much more within them, but they just haven't tapped into it yet. So they want to grow, but they just aren't quite sure how to get there.
You say you help advisors know their value, find the right clients, and love the practice they're growing.
Yes.
So can you unpack that framework a little bit?
Absolutely. So my Know, Find, Love framework, it really goes to every single type of, I'd say every type of advisor, every type of business, anything. It really has to do with really knowing who you serve, knowing what you're put here to do, and then going out and finding them, which is the marketing. We always talk about different ways to attract clients, but a lot of times we do it haphazard and we don't really think about the strategy behind it or what would really work for our people. So once we know who our people are and know how we want to serve them, we've got to go out and find them. And then once we find the clients, we get the right people. It's all about loving on them and making sure we love the work we do, we love the impact we're making, and that we're showing some good love and appreciation to the clients that we're working with.
And how do you help clients know their value?
A lot of times it takes a minute, and it sounds bad to say that, but especially women, we aren't always good at articulating it, or we aren't always good at being confident in what we're doing. So a lot of times it's just reminding them, helping them uncover what their strengths are. I'm a huge fan of the Clifton Strengths Finder, and I use that with a lot of my clients to really unpack what are you naturally and innately good at. And once we can unpack that, then we can start to see where that shows up in their business. And that helps. And once they see it, they can start to believe it a little bit more. But frequently it's just uncovering what's already there that they may have hidden a little bit.
What are one or two non-negotiables that you insist your clients have in place so that they can scale without burning out?
A couple of things. So the non-negotiables for me with my clients, first and foremost, I have a no jerk policy 100% of the time. So if they're not going to be nice to me, they're not going to be nice to their clients. That's a non-negotiable for me as far as somebody to work with. But honestly, to enable them to scale, they've got to have that as well. And then I think the second one would be like we mentioned earlier, it's really the growth mindset, understanding that I really want to grow. Sometimes people will come to me to talk about coaching and I'll ask them what their vision is, and they're pretty happy where they are. They don't really want to grow. So while I could get in and help them, it's really going to be pulling a dead weight along. So I want somebody who is kind and nice and growth minded. Those are going to be the biggest keys to be able to scale.
So when you work with solo or small teams of women advisors in particular, what are the first systems or metrics they should put in place if they want to think about and operate like a CEO?
So it goes back to that know, find, love framework again. They first and foremost need to know who they're serving. Who is their target market? Who are they really going after? Then we address how are they finding them? What is their marketing strategy? What is their prospecting strategy? How are they attracting those clients? And then lastly, we're looking at what's the experience, their planning they're doing with them, the client engagement, communication. We're looking at all those pieces. So really target marketing, client attraction, and client experience. But the overriding umbrella to all that, Cathy, is really we've got to make sure that they're looking at this like a business. Because so many of us come in and they're like, get clients, see people, build a book, but they don't teach us how to be business owners. So I've got to get them clear on what they're doing, what they're meant to do. And then we have to look at it. Where's this going?
And is there some typical pain points that you find with prospects that come your way? Like they find you because there's something not going right.
Yeah, I would say there's two pain points that advisors typically have when they come to me. First, they feel like they are working to death and the business is running them and they're not running the business. That's one. But the other one is they're stuck at a plateau. I would say the majority of the people that come to me are very intelligent. They've done a very good job building, but they have just leveled out and they can't figure out how to break through that ceiling that they've hit.
And then there's the typical phenomenon where advisors struggle to let go of control. How do you help someone like that?
Yeah, the control advisors, we love to be control freaks. I don't know. I was like that in my own practice. I was very fortunate that my team, when I was still a practicing advisor, was phenomenal and they would push back on me if I was trying to hold on too much. But so I think that's the big thing is getting them to let go of control. The fact that I've been an advisor and I've run a firm, I think they listen to me a little bit more on that, where I'm like, okay, let me play it forward for you and show you what it looks like if you do let go. But that goes to letting go has to go to the second thing you talked about, which is staff and having the right team around you. And that's a big pain point for a lot of advisors. So the private clients that I work with, I'm super strict about team and who they hire. I go as far as I usually interview their top few candidates for any open positions they have, because what I've found advisors do, and I was guilty of this myself, is they hire somebody they like, their buddy. It's either a friend or they like them or they like their personality, but it may not be what they need. So I like to do some interviews of the top candidates and see what would be a good fit. I really like it because what I've seen is the deeper I can go with them in their practice, the more I really get to know them and get to know the team they're working with, the better I can help them and the quicker they scale. So I like to get in there and know who they're hiring and who would be a really good complement to what they already have in place.
So as you're talking, you've mentioned private clients, concierge clients. Do you have different client segments, and can you describe that?
I do. So my private and concierge, I'm using it interchangeably. Those are my one-on-one clients. Those are the ones where I'm going deep and I'm getting to know them and their team. I take a limited number of them each year, but we are all in on them. It is fun and we're going deep. Now, with that, occasionally I'll have somebody come to me and say, "Hey, I'm launching a firm. Can you just help me get off the ground?" We can do a one-off consulting project like that as well, or some chief strategy work I do for a lot of firms where they'll bring me in and go, "Just give us the runway." So those are my private. And then we do have our Edge program, which is groups. So if I have somebody who's not quite ready for private, either from a time commitment or a financial standpoint, we've got two incredible group programs that we put them in where they still get coaching, they still get all of our content, all of our courses, but it's a little bit more group session. So they've got a community around them to help. We do a monthly deep dive with them where I'm going deep into a different topic each month. I do weekly, we call them collab sessions, which is like office hours. So each week they have access to ask any questions they need and let us go a little deeper to help them.
What was the turning point for you when you decided, I don't want to be an advisor anymore?
I think part of it was the fact I enjoyed watching my advisors win. But the other part of it is when I was still practicing, I was in a leadership role. My goal had always been to keep going and to go a little bit deeper, to keep moving into that managing partner seat. I was a managing director at the time. So it was the next level up. But the more I looked at it and the more I talked about it, I felt like I was going to be constrained. And I had this conversation with a managing partner friend of mine. He's, Chris, I think your impact can be so much larger than this one office. And I felt like it gave me an opportunity to just have a broader impact on the industry because this is such a great industry and there's tons of opportunity to grow. And I felt that was probably the biggest thing is seeing the advisors win and wanting to see more of them win.
Let's talk about marketing and owning your voice a little bit. You've written and spoken for years about marketing and social media for advisors. And I'm wondering what actually worked in 2025, do you think?
I think what worked, first of all, what worked this year probably won't work next year. But the biggest thing in what works, I think, is different for every advisor. And this is the part that I feel most advisors miss is we frequently say, have this funnel, do this podcast, do this video. And that may work for some advisors, but it may not. What works is what's authentic to you. So if you love, like you got a podcast, you love podcasting, do podcasts. But some people don't like that. So I think we've got to, as advisors, look at what would really fit my style, my market, who's listening to me, and go from there.
Are there any unusual platforms that you found advisors use besides Instagram, LinkedIn? Are any using TikTok?
Part of it depends on the advisor because from a compliance standpoint, so many, especially the larger broker dealers, they're not allowed to use TikTok. I tend to see the financial coaches, and there's a lot of horrible financial information on TikTok. I'm not a TikTok fan, but I have kids, so I know all about it. But there's a lot of bad information because it's not done by advisors. There's people that are influencers that are talking about TikTok and finance that don't know it. I think it's a great market for younger people. If you truly know your stuff and can get on there and make it fun, phenomenal. Another interesting one I've seen, it's a very niche market, but Pinterest is very big for moms. So moms are going on there to find recipes and decoration ideas. So there's a lot. If your market is 20s and 30s, maybe even 40s, female women, Pinterest is a great thing.
Yeah. So your advice is show up where your people are, figure that out, which means you really do need to have a niche. And then find something that you like to do so that you're not dreading it every single time.
It's like the old adage with marketing, everything works and everything doesn't. It just depends. And we can't do all the things. Tell my clients, I want you to have 2 or 3 things that you're doing and that you're going hard at. That's your outreach. And it could be LinkedIn and speaking engagements and writing a book, whatever it is. But if we try to do all the things and be on all the platforms, we're not going to do any of them well.
For both new and veteran advisors, what's one client attraction activity they should be doing weekly and that most are not doing at all or not doing well?
So this is one of the little hacks I have for my clients that I tell them. I call it the reach outs. I think advisors should be doing this daily. And what a reach out is exactly like it sounds. You are reaching out to someone. And I tell my clients, it does not matter to me who it is. It can be a client, prospect, center of influence, a cousin, but it's just consistently reaching out because where the industry is going with AI, with all of these automations, with the planning piece of it being able largely to be done by computers, it's going back to relationship. And the reach outs is a simple thing you can do. You're sending a text, an email, a voicemail, anything just to let them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. Hey, Cathy, I thought about you today. Just wanted to say hello. If advisors could do that, I like them to do 5 a day. And 5 a day is not, it sounds like a lot. It's really not. Any of my advisors that I've had do it, it gets to be a habit really quick and something good always comes from it.
We talked a little bit about AI, but I'm wondering, what do you use? I'm sure you're seeing a lot of change in that area.
A ton. I love AI. Most advisors, it petrifies them. I absolutely love it. And we were scared of the internet when it first came out too. So now we can't imagine life without it. I think we're going to see tremendous advances. First and foremost, I think it's going to streamline a lot of things. So for example, I leverage it personally for a lot of my marketing, a lot of my write. I don't let it write for me, but it's become a thought partner. So I almost think of it as like I've named mine. Her name is Veronica, AI assistant, is very good at letting me bounce ideas. Or I'm thinking about this for a newsletter. What bullet points could I do? Or where should I go with this? So I think it's a tremendous thought partner for us from a marketing standpoint. But in the advisory space, we're going to see it take over a lot of the planning pieces that we've done. But you mentioned efficiency, I'm telling you, Cathy, it's firms that can put that into place to streamline their introductory calls, to streamline scheduling appointments. At some point, I think it'll get to basic service requests, probably not trades for a while, but I bet it gets there. We've just got to be nimble enough to know what's happening and being able to adjust as we go forward.
When you're strategizing with your clients, are you recommending any AI tools to them at this point?
It depends on what they want to use it for. So I think ChatGPT, if you can train it well, and there's some prompts I have them use so they can get to know you as an advisor. I think Chat is excellent from a marketing standpoint. I think it's terrible with pictures. Google Gemini has come a long way. It's a lot better with graphics. It's a lot better with building slide decks, things like that. And it goes deeper if you were going to need to write code for something for a website. It's a little bit stronger in that. But I think it really depends on what you're doing. And then like a Grok, since it's tied to Twitter, it's going to be a little bit more timely for news. So I think it really depends on, it's changing all the time, but it depends on how you want to use that.
We're going to shift to being a woman in the industry and to tap your thoughts about that. For example, what advice would you give to a woman who is the only female advisor in her office or one of just a few and it's tired of feeling like she has to fit in to succeed?
I would say, because I've been there for a very long time, I would say the more you try to fit in, the worse your business is going to do because you're not being you. It's that old Dr. Seuss quote, why fit in when you were born to stand out? Women in our industry have a competitive advantage, a huge competitive advantage. We are naturally givers. We are naturally helpers. It fits so well with the industry. So I think if we can lean in more into who you are and not try to blend in, huge advantage.
For the seasoned female advisor who's already successful but feels a little bit bored or plateaued, and I'm sure you run into that, what does next level look like?
I think for those women, and it's right I've been in the industry 25 years, and I was a career changer, so I'm on the older end of the spectrum here. But I think most women that hit that stage is because they never slowed down and stopped enough to figure out, what do I want this to look like? So typically when I'm working with an advisor, that's the very first question I ask them. And I ask it very strategically. I say, tell me what you want your life to look like. And I specifically say your life instead of business because I want to know where they go with that. And the men will tend to go to the business and what they want it to do and the revenue, where the women tend to go with what lifestyle surrounds the business. Either way, there's nothing wrong with either answer, but it's telling. So when I'm working with a woman that wants to break through the plateau and I ask that question, that's probably the first time they've slowed down enough to figure out, okay, this is really what I want to build. And then I can design the strategies to get them there. Because I have women that do phenomenal. We're talking high seven-figure earners that work 3 days a week. So you can truly build anything you want in this industry, but you have to know what it is you're moving towards. I think that's where a lot of women bump up against a plateau is not only are we trying to blend in, we're trying to do it the way everybody else did it. And sometimes that doesn't work.
You have a reputation. I'm going to go to this question. For calling out the BS and pushing people to be more relentless about their goals. What are some of the most common stories or excuses you hear, and how do you help them overcome those?
All right. So the first excuses that I hear a lot is a time one. And I don't buy the time one. We all have the same hours in the day as anybody, as Beyonce, as The Rock, as whoever's out there doing a million great things. So the time one doesn't fit for me. So that's the first one I have to kibosh because we all have time for what's important to us. So I hear that excuse. I can unpack it in 2 seconds and then it usually goes away. So they don't use that. But the other excuse that I'll hear advisors making is, this going to sound weird, and this is more common with the women I work with. It's not the fear of failure, it's the fear of success. So what would it look like if? What would it look like if I started making $500,000, 100, whatever it is, a lot of times we get to that edge of that next level of success and we almost pull back a little bit. And we're afraid of what happens if we're successful. What happens? What are people going to think? So it's getting them to really think through that and talk through that and tie it back to what they want life to look like. So that's probably the time and the fear of success are probably the two biggest obstacles I see.
I want to talk about something that is such a big issue in our industry right now, and that is succession planning. Succession planning and/or selling their firm. Do you get involved in helping advisors make those decisions, set up a succession plan, et cetera?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I stop short of the actual M&A thing. So I have several partners in the industry that I will refer to if they want to sell or if they are looking for a buyer. I stay out of that. I kind of joke I'm Switzerland. But my job is to get you ready for a sale and to help you think about the things you need to think about. So part of being Switzerland is, okay, how do we maximize your revenue beforehand? And let's think through who you want to buy your firm, what you want it to look like. Are you staying involved or not? I want advisors thinking about all that before, because otherwise somebody comes along with a big checkbook and they make bad decisions. So I'm involved in it just to prep them. And for any advisors that sell or merge with another firm, I usually will coach them on the back end to say, how do we transition our clients? How do we communicate with them? So the logistical pieces, absolutely. But the number pieces, I'll review offers, but I've got there's some great people in the industry that I think are really good at that.
Yeah. So with the money part, you act as an advocate. You'll look at it and have a conversation, but you rely on the M&A people.
Correct.
Do you make it a practice to start talking to your client, especially your private clients, about being ready for this early on?
I do, because especially at certain ages. My 30-year-olds, no, we're not really talking about it unless they want to be a junior to somebody. I'm in my mid-50s, and I think if you aren't looking or even thinking about it 10 years out from retirement, you're missing the boat. One, because your clients are asking. One of my favorite private clients that I work with forever, he's in his late 70s. He still practices. And about 10 years ago, so he was mid-60s or mid to late 60s then, clients started asking him. He's in great health, beautiful practice, great team. But clients were asking, how much longer are you going to do this? So even if he weren't talking about it, the clients were wondering. And that's where you see people start looking elsewhere, going outside. But I think it's a 10-year mark. Even if you're not doing anything, you need to at least figure out, who am I going to pass these relationships to, whether that's internal or an external sale.
And what do you think of the valuations out there that you're hearing about with private equity getting involved in the space?
I think they're hugely inflated. I really do. I think we're going to see them come down. I've had some clients who got some wonderful acquisitions and have bought companies, and I've had some that got some nice paychecks to sell theirs. I think it's going to level off a little bit. The private equity is interesting to me because I'm an advocate for my advisors, but at the same time, I'm a client. And I want to make sure that any succession plan or any acquisition is good for the clients too. So even though I'm helping advisors scale, I'm helping them do it the right way. So I think we'll see the multiples go down. That's my guess. I don't know as far as private equity. They're back in everything now, pretty much every industry. My hope and prayer is that we can find a way to do this where it's advantageous to the advisor that's selling, because they did build the business and they deserve a really good payout. But I also want to make sure that it's fair to the clients as well, and that there's a seamless transition of that relationship. So that's what I'd love to see. I personally think we'll see the multiples go down.
What does a really successful engagement look like to you?
For me, I would say, and I tend to work with solo advisors or boutique. I don't do a lot of enterprise at all because I do like that customization and the being all in. So a successful engagement to me looks like somebody that comes in and they know that they're like, oh, I'm just on the edge of growth. And it's not a massive overhaul. It's little tweaks. It's, if we could just adjust this. And it's usually getting them back to what we talked about at the very beginning, Cathy, knowing your market, figuring out how to get in front of them, so finding them and loving on them a little bit more. So if we can help advisors do that, it gets fun. I think a lot of times we get so busy, we miss the having fun part. So a successful engagement for me is also, I love working with them and they love working with me, and we have some fun along the way.
Do you have any final words? And since this podcast is for women advisors, do you have any final words for that woman that's out there listening going, oh man, I need someone like Kristin?
I'd say two things. The first is going back to that Dr. Seuss quote. Why blend in when you were born to stand out? You got everything you need to grow this practice. We just have to make little tweaks to make sure the you as the woman advisor is showing up. And the second piece of advice that I think most female advisors especially miss is bet on yourself. We're so busy trying to do all the things everybody else thinks we should do. Bet on you. Bet on you to say, okay, this is what will work. This is what I feel strongly about. These are the people I want to serve, and this is how I want to do it. Bet on yourself.
If someone wants to work with you, how do they find you?
I am super easy to find online. I mentioned earlier, I'm all over LinkedIn. So Kristin Andree on LinkedIn is the best place. And shoot me a note. Tell me you saw me here and let's start connecting. And then as far as the better way to find out about more of what I do is my website, myfacoach.com. It has all the information you need about how we could potentially help you.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leave us a 5-star review. It helps more women advisors discover the strategies and stories we share each week.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. This podcast does not engage in rendering legal, financial, or other professional services.